Jessica Tarlov really thought this was her moment. Check it out.
All seem to agree that he was radicalized online and seems to be part of this kind of internet nihilist group of kids. But we know that Tyler Robinson was raised in a close-knit conservative family. We know it was a big gun culture family.
On a recent episode of The Five, Jessica Tarlov pulled some Olympic-level mental gymnastics, trying to shift blame for Charlie Kirk's assassin's radicalization, until Greg Gutfeld had enough and dismantled her entire argument.
I understand why people are saying, what about this and what about this? Because if you have to face the underlying fact to this, your life is going to fall apart because you're going to realize you're not the good guys.
That's why today we're covering it all, because we're not here to follow parties blindly. We're here for common sense. So if you're an independent thinker, hit the subscribe button and let's jump right into it.
But everybody from the president to Governor Cox to FBI Director Patel all seem to agree that he was radicalized online and seems to be part of this kind of internet nihilist group of kids, right, who spend all their times in Discord chats that play video games. And that makes sense because of what we saw in the bullet casings, right? The furry meme, which is old, by the way. I was reading about it. It's over 10 years old. So, you know, he's grown up on this, been seeing it for a long time. The Helldivers 2, the game, then the Ciao Bella, which has been used by both the left and the right, this anti-fascist call to action. But we know that Tyler Robinson was raised in a close-knit conservative family. We know it was a big gun culture family. The grandma said something like, we don't even know any liberals. It wasn't school indoctrination. Carrie Lake went off on that. He was in an online apprenticeship program at Dixie Technical College, which I don't think was changed.
I would just note the family said he changed.
But they didn't say when he changed.
What Jessica tried to pull here is nothing short of hypocritical. First, she put words in Kash Patel's and President Trump's mouths, claiming they said the assassin was radicalized online, something they never actually said. Then, she tried to spin the shooter as being MAGA-aligned. And when confronted about it, she had the audacity to lecture others about, quote, waiting for the facts before you smear. Well, let's look at the facts. In text messages between Tyler and his boyfriend, one line stands out the most, quote, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. That tells you everything. Robinson saw Charlie's work as, quote, hateful. And where does that framing come from? It's not video games. It's not the right. It comes straight from mainstream media narratives and politicians on the left who spent years painting Charlie Kirk as the face of everything wrong with America. Obviously, Greg wasn't about to let Jessica's mental gymnastics slide. And needless to say, he didn't hold back.
We don't need more information.
Really?
Yes, we don't need it. What is interesting here is why is only this happening on the left and not the right? That's all we need to know.
What about
There's absolutely no cognitive...
What about Melissa Hortman that we just talked about?
You want to talk about Melissa Hortman? Did you know her name before it happened? None of us did. None of us were spending every single day talking about Mrs. Hortman. I never heard of her until after she died.
She doesn't matter?
Don't play that bullshit with me. You know what I'm saying is there was no demonization, amplification about that woman before she died. It was a specific crime against her by somebody who knew her. The same. Now you could bring up Josh Shapiro, but then you will not bring up, for example, that was a pro-Palestine person. So don't use your what about this? The fact of the matter is the both sides argument not only doesn't fly, we don't care. We don't care about your both sides argument. That shit is dead.
Now, this might be the first time I've seen Greg so fired up during a segment, and honestly, he had every reason to be. The sheer magnitude of Charlie's assassination isn't something that should be twisted or spun to score cheap political points. When people do that, it doesn't just downplay the tragedy. It actively makes the situation worse. If this kind of behavior continues unchecked, it sets the stage for more political violence in the future. And when that happens, the blame shifting and whataboutism will only serve as cover for the perpetrators. Instead of accountability, we see excuses. Instead of honest dialogue, we'll get deflection. Greg went on to explain why we're seeing the left and the MSM become so defensive in the wake of this event, and he summed it perfectly. But before we play that, we have a quick message for you. Now, did you know the biggest threat to your retirement is not something that's talked about very often? Our increased longevity in America means default retirement accounts like IRAs, 401ks, and TSPs may not be enough. If you have over $100,000 in your retirement account, get instant access to a free 2-minute report from Augusta Precious Metals that reveals the one step you can take to secure your financial future. Visit mentorforgold.com, that's mentorforgold.com, or text mentor to 35052 today. Now, back to the video.
And I understand the defensiveness. I understand why people are saying, what about this and what about this? Because if you have to face the underlying fact to this, your life is going to fall apart because you're going to realize you're not the good guys. If you sat around and you defended the mutilation of children, you're not the good guys. If you sat 600, 700 cases of harassment against Republicans and you said, but what about this? What about this? And then you see this murder after calling somebody a fascist, you realize maybe I'm not the good guy. That is a hell of a realization to deal with. So therefore, you have to grasp at rationalizations. You don't have to do that, Jessica. They do. I don't believe you're part of that group, but why the hell do you have to mimic and echo that crap to us? He was a patsy. That guy was a patsy.
Now, we'll need to wait for more official details to fully confirm Tyler's motives. But Greg made a strong point, and it goes far beyond the events of September 10th. This didn't happen in a vacuum. It's the byproduct of years of growing polarization. There was a time when politics ended at the ballot box. You could vote red or blue and still grab a beer with your neighbor afterwards. Charlie Kirk, in many ways, tried to revive that culture, always reminding people that disagreement doesn't have to mean hostility. But in the past decade or so, that spirit has slowly gone away. Demonizing opponents has become the default setting. And the divide grew so deep that some families even cut ties over who they voted for. Sure, it's been more extreme on one side than the other, but the bigger picture is clear. Our society has split into parallel realities. The echo chambers are so strong, they're created separate political cultures altogether. You don't need to look further than liberals fleeing Twitter after Elon bought it, and they moved it to Blue Sky. Going back to the 5, Jessica tried to justify her position after Greg's brutal takedown, but she only came across as even more hypocritical.
I just want to be clear, and I want to let people speak. I in no way intended at all to minimize what happened to Charlie. I was horrified by it. I have not been on the 5
but
since
the
then.
two sides argument, well, it's like pig Latin to a duck.
No. All that I was saying is could we have all of the information before you just say they did this? Because that is a broad brush to paint with this. And this kid
Let's have a conversation.
No.
Charlie had a conversation. He got shot. Look, I'm sorry, Jessica. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You weren't here for a week. You came in here and it's cold. And I'm sorry, but this is a story that is immune to news cycles. It's immune to rationalizations. It's immune to bias. This thing is with us for good. And we all have to deal with that. So that means we can't live by the same arguments that you might be reading about relativism among the media. We can't deal with those stories. It doesn't matter. The media is dead to us on this story. They built this thing up. We're dealing with it. We're going to act. We don't care what the whataboutism is anymore. That shit's dead.
Now, as we mentioned earlier, Jessica was doing exactly what she ended up criticizing, and she deserves to be called out on it. When it comes to the whataboutism, it was the worst thing that we saw following this event. For days, the media tried to spin the conversation by pointing to the tragic shooting of the Minnesota House Speaker and the burning of Governor Josh Shapiro's home, as if acknowledging Charlie's case somehow diminished those. That's not how it works. A more rational response would be to condemn all political violence equally and focus on toning things down, especially when reckless labels like fascist are thrown around so casually. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on this story. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember, keep thinking.